Thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully, you're in the right spot if you're coming to see a use case study for Dick's Sporting Goods and full day out. If you were just enjoying available seat, that's perfectly fine as well. But please stay and enjoy the story. We have a great story to tell about Dick's Sporting Goods, who we've been partnering with on their transformation journey. I'm joined today by Brad Cohen from Dick's Sporting Goods. He's their manager of HR technology, and he's going to walk you through some of the project and transformation journey that Dick's has been going on. We wanted to give you an intro into Eightfold and Dick's Sporting Goods, talk about some of the forces that are driving this need for change in their organization, talk through the concept of skills as the through line in reimagining and redesigning talent and talent management. And then Brad was going to share a little bit of tips and tricks, but a little bit of the secret sauce, the magic behind the curtain on what HR can do, and we'll open it up for some Q&A. So Eightfold is a talent intelligence platform. We plug into your enterprise HR systems. We incorporate a lot of external environmental data, and we leverage global data sets to make sense of your own organizational information. By doing this, we provide talent intelligence to a lot of different functions and processes in the talent lifecycle. So examining potential for applicants, for employees, even for contractors, talking about a person's capabilities, doing things like a skills inference or adjacent skills and defining career paths or broadening the talent pool for individual jobs. We also look at learnability, the ability for a person who has a certain set of skills, what's the likelihood they'll be able to learn this other set of skills based off of adjacencies and relatedness. We also have a patent on predicting success and fit to role and talent that's likely to succeed. Using Eightfold, you're able to better understand the talent that's inside your company, the talent that is interested in working for your company in your network of applicants and prospects, as well as bringing that external data set and external visibility to better understand your market and your industry. And when we talk about the talent lifecycle for talent management leaders or for talent acquisition leaders, there are so many decision points in that process that we surface those insights and those recommendations at those various stages across our platform. If you go to the next slide, this is a little bit of what our platform looks like. We offer 3 different systems of engagement with talent acquisition, talent flex, and talent management, and all of them cover a variety of functionalities that help potentially consolidate your tech stack into more of a single AI platform for talent. What this also does is it sits on top of our talent intelligence platform, which is powered by our AI engine. So that's where I say, as a layer on top of your enterprise HR systems and leveraging our global data sets and our AI recommendations, we're able to empower those various processes on the TA side, on the TM side, or even contingent workforce with Flex. As a result of that, you're getting additional insights, both as an employee as well as an applicant, on how you're being matched to jobs or potential career paths you can consider, potential training courses or learning recommendations, as well as on the talent leader side, getting better visibility to your organization, understanding the capabilities and gaps in your workforce, as well as potentially how you compare to certain industry benchmarks and competitors. So this just gives you a little bit of a crib note version on everything that Eightfold does. We do a lot more. For example, one part of our talent intelligence platform is our job intelligence engine, which was just recognized at this conference as one of the HR products of the year. That job intelligence engine helps you analyze and evaluate your roles based on skills and looks at emerging and declining and rising skills and helps you update and inform how you evaluate talent. We also offer talent insights as a service where we can help provide industry comparisons for your organization and some benchmark companies. From this, I'd like to shift over to Brad to give us a little bit of an intro on Dick's Sporting Goods.
Hi everybody, so my name is Brad Cohen, I'm with Dick's Sporting Goods. So something to note to provide some context is Dick's Sporting Goods, we have about 858 stores in 47 states. We service about approximately 140 million customers, which we call athletes. So what that means is essentially we cover about 2/3 of the population through our brick and mortar stores and our e-commerce channels. What a lot of people don't know is they know Dick's Sporting Goods, but we offer a lot of other concept stores as well. We have Field and Stream, Public Lands, Golf Galaxy, Going, Going, Gone, and House of Sport. So we are a big chain of retail stores, and we're doing some pretty cool stuff. So we engaged on a project with Eightfold, and this was all started about a year ago. And the reason for our project is that due to the pandemic and all of the economic disruption, as well as kind of some societal unrest out there, because of the nation's kind of slouching progress toward diversity, we noticed that a lot of things changed out there. How customers wanted to shop with us, how communities how they want to interact with brands, what employees expect from employers, and what shareholders expect from us. So everything changed, and this put a lot of stress on our leaders. They were being demanded, they had new demands being placed on them, and it was a new kind of environment for them. And so at Dick's Sporting Goods, we place a lot of emphasis on our athlete experience, but we knew we needed to step back and really take a look at our teammate experience. We needed to equip our managers with the tools and processes to help elevate their roles. And so for us, this all began with what we called elevated profiles. We built elevated profiles for 4 of our key roles, which were our lead role, our assistant store manager role, our store manager, and our district manager. And we created these elevated roles through a very structured process. So the first thing we did is we wanted these profiles to be informed by our existing teammates and really what great leadership already looks like in our field. So we went out and we spent over several months. We interviewed high-performing managers, and we also conducted positive deviance observations. And we really just wanted to know, of those store leaders that we have out there, what are they doing that really works well, and how can we emulate those behaviors and skills throughout our business? So that leads us to the next step in our process, and this is really where Eightfold came into play. We knew that we have a lot of great data in our company. There isn't a metric or a scorecard or something that we don't measure within our company. So we took all of that data and we loaded it into the Eightfold system. We took data from our core HR system, our ATS, as well as our learning management system. And what it did is it was able to identify for us skills that were trending up, skills that were trending down, what's declining. All of this rich history of data, coupled with our interviews, we analyzed all that data, and we took our first draft of our elevated profiles for those 4 roles that I mentioned. Once we did that, we got executive alignments on all of those profiles, and then we started rolling out the project. When we rolled this out, we really wanted to get a baseline of the talent that's out there in our retail environment. So we were very deliberative in our journey. We built in-house assessments across 3 competency areas: leadership, managerial, and technical. And so using the Eightfold platform, we kind of rebranded it as the Elevation Hub, so that on day 1, as our managers and store leaders went in there, they had assessments ready for them. They had training on how to use the system. They had videos on what the expectations were for them as a leader. And we called that Begin Your Elevation Journey, so they saw that right when they logged in. And we gave them about 3 weeks to test all of these assessments across those 3 categories. And during that time, we did a lot of change management. I have a really cool video I want to show you here in a few minutes. But we did change management, so we spent a lot of time getting out in our field, talking to our store managers, helping them really understand the expectations of these elevated profiles so that they felt comfortable with all the change that was ahead of them. And so after this 3-week period, after they took all of these assessments, we loaded that data into the Eightfold platform so that as soon as they logged in, each leader across all of our skills and competencies in each of those categories could see how they stood against a benchmark so that they knew immediately where they could grow and develop their career, which leads us to that next step. where we provided curated development opportunities in the form of training and mentors and projects that we were able to provide for each of the competencies based on how they scored.
Hey, Brad.
Yes.
So when you rolled out this plan with these assessments, I heard a couple of things in there, a couple little tricks of the trade. So the first one was you had it pre-populated in the system, so when you launched and you went live, the employees went right to their page in their profile and it was already embedded, correct?
Correct. They logged right into the Eightfold platform, and the only thing they saw was a package called Begin Your Elevation Journey, and within that was just job aids on how to use the platform as well as the assessments. And from there, we also asked them to fill out a profile to help further enrich the system with more data.
Was there anything that led to that decision, any lessons learned from previous projects or feedback when you did those interviews?
Yes, they loved it. We conducted office hours during the whole project, and they said, wow, this was like something else. For the first time, they really care about our development, and packaging it in this way was just awesome for them.
And then were those assessments for the current roles, or were they for future roles, or how do you align the data to the plan?
Good question. So they were all for current role. So those were all for those 4 roles. Our lead population through our district managers, it was for their current role. And how we did that is, you alluded to this, we used the Eightfold Job Intelligence Engine. And for each of those 4 roles, we defined specifically what are the skills and competencies that are required for that role. So a couple of things, recommendations we have through our project that we learned is if you are going to go through an upskilling effort, we recommend that you root your effort in business outcomes. So make sure it's tied into something tangible, a business result. And then for us, we had to identify key roles. And for us, store leadership was the pivotal role for us. That was the area we wanted to focus on. And for each of those roles, you really need to understand what great looks like. Technology is an enabler, but you really need to start with the people. Get out there and interview your people and really understand what good looks like. And then create a thoughtful change management plan. People are only going to adopt the change if they feel like they're a part of the change. So for us, we had to get out there and hold office hours. We'd have regional vice president calls. We just had to really do a lot of store visits and make sure that everyone really felt a part of the change. And then finally, you should embed this notion of identifying skills and competencies throughout your process. So for us, we started with assessments, but we continue that, and we're even experimenting right now with succession planning. So in terms of change management, every year at Dick's Sporting Goods, we have what we call a store management leadership conference, where we bring all of our store leaders in for a corporate conference. And during that conference, it was cool because we had breakout sessions where people could really understand what their elevated profiles meant to them. But also on the backstage, we had a kind of a hype video playing to get people excited. And I just wanted to share this video with you because it really pumped our team up.
I do want to turn it over to the audience for some questions, but I have a couple just more questions to ask you real quick.
Yes.
So one of the first ones is, you mentioned people going into the stores. So you're doing this for a largely deskless worker audience, right? So was there any consideration or special nuance or wrinkle to doing this with that type of an audience?
Yeah, good question. So first and foremost, like for our teammates, the most important thing is that we do a good job of servicing our customer. So we didn't want to take them off the floor and disrupt sales too much. So we had to be very deliberative about timing them to take these assessments. And we don't have a lot of PCs or anything like that in our retail locations. So we just have a couple back office computers. So we had to schedule them in very, very deliberate waves to get them off of the floor to take those assessments. And we were also, because we were using AI, we were able to scale up very quickly to already understand some of those skills that they have and populate their profiles from day one with some of the skills that they have. So that kind of helped us reduce some of the flow that we needed to take them off of the floor.
And then as a result of this initiative, now you're several months in, are there any things that you used to be burdened with that you're able to get rid of?
Good question. So we started experimenting with succession planning quite a bit. And I don't know about you, but there's a lot of organizations out there, at least us, that manage succession planning on a spreadsheet. So we were able to eliminate spreadsheets by going to Eightfold. So we were able to use the AI-driven insights as well as our competency assessments to help inform our succession plans and recommend potential candidates that we might not be thinking about.
Were there any questions from the audience?
So if I understand the question correctly, how much did we hear about career pathing versus development and training? Is that accurate? Yeah, it's a good question. So trying to figure out those career pathing is very difficult, and that's kind of where the AI really helped us shine. We wouldn't have been able to do that without the help of Eightfold. And then the second piece to your question on learning, right when you logged into the platform, we had 2 customized learning carousels that said required for your role and then recommended for your role. So for each of those competencies, we defined a benchmark. And based on that benchmark, we had 3 development areas: opportunity, skill, or strength. So depending on how you scored there, your proficiency level, the system would recommend or require specific training of you. So it was really cool, and they were very engaged with the process the whole way through. Good question.
Brett, you said on day one they logged in and they had it there. How much work went into it, leading? How much time did you need internally before you were ready for them to log in?
Good question. So it was a great project in that we took about a year. We wanted to be really deliberative with this. So we took a whole year to develop the process, the project. I would say we spent about 6 months just defining the profiles and what should go in the profiles, making sure that they were informed by our leaders so that they felt a part of the process. I think that that was the most important thing by far, was just really spending the time trying to build out those profiles. So I would say 6 months to that, 6 months about just on that. And then the 6 months after that was really just building out the technology and kind of tweaking and refining. And we're on a journey, so we're iterating. We hold office hours almost weekly with our field. Hey, what's working? What's not? How can we pivot for you? What would you like to see more of? So we keep constantly shifting and taking in that feedback. Yeah. Yes?
You mentioned earlier that your store managers came up with Salesforce, they had that scheduled time to go back to a desktop. Does Eightfold, does it have a mobile platform where they could have done like the assessment on the phone or on a tablet versus using a PC?
Yes. So for everybody else, the question was, we primarily used a desktop PC for this, but does Eightfold have a mobile-enabled version? So they do. They have a mobile-enabled like website that you can use and take the assessments there. And then they also have an app as well. For this go-around, we just didn't go that way, but that is definitely an option.
So Chris, you actually asked a question that gets at an interesting part of the project. One of the things that Dick's Sporting Goods chose to do was they actually used a third-party assessment tool and had their workforce take the assessments using that third-party tool. But with the flexibility of Eightfold and our AI engine, we were able to ingest those results and then populate their profile and build recommendations from that third-party assessment.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. These assessments, I think we did something very unique in the industry, is that we're using AI from Eightfold to help identify skills, but we're also using traditional assessments to help validate those skills. So we built a number of in-house assessments as well as third-party assessments like Korn Ferry and some of your more traditional ones that are out there. So we constantly feed that assessment data into Eightfold, and it aligns with each skill so they can see their proficiency level.
Any other questions before I ask one more? So having done some of these in my former life back in HR, I know one of the hardest parts is to get executive support and executive buy-in and to get kind of that wind in your sails. How did you get that from the top of the organization to kind of drive this initiative forward?
I wish I could say that it was difficult and we had to do some like arduous business case, but our leaders actually recognize that our people are important to us. Our CEO constantly says if we're going to win, it's going to be through our people. So it was not really like an uphill battle for us. So I would say about a year ago, our executive leaders came to us and we formed a cross-functional team. My mandate was to kind of find technology to help identify and assess people at scale. And then there were other parties like our operations team, as well as our strategy team. So we all just came together and really were given a lot of flexibility to build this in the best way that would serve our teammates.
So in your role as manager of HR technology, the Eightfold Talent Intelligence Platform is a layer that's part of the tech stack. Can you tell us a little bit about your tech stack?
Yeah, so our tech stack currently is Eightfold, and then for our core HR system we use PeopleSoft. For our learning management system we use Cornerstone, and then for our applicant tracking system we use Taleo. That said, we are on a big transformational journey. So over the next year or so, we're also migrating over to Workday, as well as using ServiceNow for an experience layer, and then also kind of Eightfold to help continue with this talent intelligence.
And then from the video, it said coming May 2022. So you're about almost half a year into this. You said that you had executive support from the very beginning, but now with some runtime kind of under your feet, are there any like aha moments of things you didn't realize or big surprises besides some of the lessons learned you shared with us?
It's actually been really great. It's been so positively received by our teammates. They can't say enough good things about it. The one thing that I was actually proud of most is I looked at this data just prior to coming to the conference, is that for our succession plans, our Ready Now successors, 40% of that population is African American and 5% is Hispanic. So just being able to provide that data and that level of visibility to our field population has increased the diversity of our succession plans tremendously. So that was one of the moments that I was most proud of that I've learned from this project. Because if we want to win in our stores, we're a service provider and we need to reflect the communities that we serve. And by using technology like this, we're able to help drive that a little better by providing that data.
Any other questions from the audience? Brad, do you have any other comments to finish with? Oh, question.
So the question was, it looks like Workday has similar functionality in terms of Career Hub, and they're also coming out with Skills Engine, and do we see leveraging them? We're still going through that process of evaluating both technologies to see the fit and what makes sense most for our population. At the end of the day, we want to do right by our teammates and the technology that best serves them. So it might be some combination of both, but what is unique about Eightfold is the external data sources that it brings into the platform. So by that, when we were creating these elevated profiles, we were able to look at our data, but we were also able to say, hey, what are other retailers like us doing out there? So that was hugely powerful to us and something that we may or may not keep using, but we, as an organization, we like to test, and if something doesn't work, we'll pivot. So we're constantly evolving, but ultimately we do what's best by our teammates and how we serve them.
Great question. For more information, one of the things I wanted to share with you is on the stools, you may have seen a card or a little placard. On there, it actually summarizes Brad's 5 key points for things to be aware of in the project and some of his lessons and best practices he wanted to share. But I also wanted to share with you that Brad and I we're able to have a similar session earlier this year where we did an hour-long webinar walking people through the project in some greater detail with additional questions. On the back of your card, there's a QR code that'll bring you right to the recording of that webinar. So if you like the talk today and you want to refer back to it, you have his 5 points. If you want to learn more, feel free to reach out to us, but you can also see the hour-long recording.
Yeah,
Thank
I'd
you so
love
much.
to chat with any of you.